Welcome everyone to the May 13th, 2025 Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee. This is where we actually start digging into our budget for the year by departments. First thing on the agenda would be public comments. We have no public comments signed up for tonight, and we'll be starting on the budget review. The first department we'll be looking at is the Election Commission, and I'll go ahead and let them come forward. I believe Mr. Farley's here. If you would, when you come forward, please state your name and your position for the county.
Alan Farley, Administrator of Elections, Rutherford County. Good evening, everybody. Glad to get everybody started off on right step. Have before you, we have a $135,000 reduction in our budget over last year. This is a one-year election cycle versus two. We alternate budget years from one election to two elections. So we accept the mayor's recommendation and ask for passage of this budget.
Before we start asking questions, assuming that there may be some, last year and the year before we had considered using the mayor's recommendation and not asking for a vote. And let me just read basically what we've done. I'd like for us to consider again accepting the mayor's recommendation if there is not a requested change as the amount that would be used to prepare for the committee's vote for publication and to approve the budget for a commission vote. If there is a motion to change the mayor's recommendation, then a roll call vote would be needed. But to accept this, first of all, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept that, or our recommend. That's my recommendation that we do that. All right, I have a motion and a second, and basically, if you agreed with Mr. Farley's budget and the mayor's recommendation, which he does, then we would simply add that to the amounts that we would send to publication without another vote. So all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're back to Mr. Farley's, and I should have done that before I asked him to come up.
That's
I
all right.
apologize. But anyway, have we got any questions for Mr. Farley and his budget?
Make a motion to approve.
We don't. No, we won't need a motion. If we're gonna leave it with no changes, then we'll accept that. And Commissioner Gooch.
Yeah. Mr. Farley, where were you said it was quite a bit less than last year? What was the reason for that?
We're pretty much labor intensive because of poll workers. So when we have one less election, it's just really in labor for poll workers and cost of administering election.
So does anyone want to make a change to the budget, the recommended budget? Seeing no warranted change, we're going to accept the mayor's recommendation and Mr. Farley's budget as submitted. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, next up is the Board of Equalization. This one I will mention, and correct me if I'm off from that. The mayor has a recommendation. Also, our elected official can do his own budget, which he has. So please continue.
First budget right here is, Rob Mitchell, Rutherford County Property Assessor. The Board of Equalization budget, we accept and concur with no issues.
Is that also the mayor's recommendation, Rob?
Yes, we concur with the mayor's.
Okay. You've heard the request. Any questions?
I'm seeing I'm seeing a department request, and tell me if I'm wrong, 67,340, I'm seeing mayor's request for 62,340.
Yes, we had had, well, the additional funds that were in the consultants was for the hiring of a potential new attorney to handle appeals. We have yet to find an attorney that's willing to handle those, so the amount that's for consultants, well, that'll be fine, the same as it was last year. It was, I think, a $5,000 increase.
Give y'all a few minutes to look over that. Does anyone from the committee have a chance? You're recognized.
So these consultants that you're asking for, is this, the extra $5,000, is this for an attorney?
Yes, sir. It's for an attorney.
What's the attorney, what's his specific role?
His specific role is handling the appeals as they go to the administrative law judge or to Chancery Court if somebody appeals their property values.
And have you hired somebody yet? I know the last time we were.
We've had a couple that we've interviewed, but the one that we had up here, Ms. Coleman, she withdrew, said she did not, wasn't able to represent us. We reached out to another attorney that we submitted a contract on. After the county reviewed the contract and made suggestions on how the contract would be, they subsequently withdrew their contract and withdrew. So we had,
Anticipating to have to increase $5,000 so that it's a more attractive job?
just to cover the level of appeals that would be coming through. We don't know how much, the last quote that we had, the last contract, they required a retainer to be paid up front that would be drawn down from, and they were charging quite a bit more per hour than our previous attorney or Ms. Coleman was. So we're going to continue to look to find someone. We've spoken with a couple of attorneys in town to see if they would be willing, but they had conflicts as well. No, we haven't completely used it yet. Our attorney died mid-cycle. We've used, I think we have an expenditure right here. Through April, we've used about $10,000 of it.
As of today, it's $10,049.05 as of today.
Any other questions for property assessor? Hearing none and hearing no objections to the mayor's proposed budget, we're going to accept that since I hear no motions to a change and move on to reappraisals, which is also Mr. Mitchell.
The reappraisal budget, we reviewed it and we concur with the recommendations from the mayor with two exceptions. The first exception that we believe should be, our numbers should be adopted in full, is line item 52-310-312. This contract supports the auditing and review of state-selected samples for tangible personal property. This year, the state has chosen a larger number of high-value accounts compared to previous years. It's important to note that this selection process is entirely controlled by the state. We have no influence over the accounts chosen for review. Regarding the financial impact of these audits, last year, the annual personal property audits resulted in a net increase of $61,393 in additional property taxes. That's $136,000 net cost less the contract to do those audits of $75,000, which gives us $61,000. The cost to audit the state-selected random sample for 25-26 is $124,975. Our budget recommendation is for $126,000 to cover that.
Okay, you have another.
Yes, sir. The next one is in postage, line item 52-310-348. As 2026 is a reappraisal year, notices regarding valuation changes will be sent to all property owners in Rutherford County, covering real estate, tangible personal property, and intangible property. A postage increase is customary every 4 years during the reappraisal cycle due to the volume of notices required to be issued. The budget request is for postage based on actual figures provided by the mailing company used by the trustee's office. However, this estimate does not include office postage for in-office metered mail or potential postal service rate changes scheduled for July of '25 and January of '26, which normally occurs after the first of the year. And amendments may be necessary. Down below that are the number of assessment change notices that will be required to be sent, 137,713, at an estimated cost of $77,119.28. Personal property assessment change notices, quantity of 20,150, resulting in a cost of $11,284. Intangible personal property schedules with inserts of 20,150 with an additional 11,284, bringing the total postage cost to $99,687.28. Our budget recommendation is for $100,000. And I did just want to add a huge thanks to the Budget Committee, the County Commission, the Finance Department, the Mayor's Office, for all the hard work that goes into preparing the annual budget. Your professionalism, fairness, commitment to this process don't go unnoticed, and I truly appreciate your efforts in keeping our county on the right financial track.
Okay, you've heard the request. Any discussion or questions from the committee?
I had to ask, Mr. Chairman. The elephant in the room is that the possibility that the state come in and do some of samples on property tax. Is that correct?
The state could come in at the end of the audit and send a team in, which the county would be on the hook to pay for.
Right. So you're saying, how did you come up with this price? You're saying it's a sample. Selected samples, had they already told you which accounts are going to be
No,
reviewed?
these are two different. The sampling on the postage line, on the
No, I'm talking
postage,
about contract with tax managers.
on the contracted consultants, that's different. We don't know what they will do. They will simply send a team in. They have not told us. The county will be billed for the actual cost of their personnel and travel, whatever it costs. That was a placeholder that I put in there just to be transparent. It could be less, it could be more, but that was the best estimate I could get from anyone.
So what is these samples? I mean, because here's the thing. You had 6,000 things they found with assessments. I believe 6,000, that's correct? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I'm going by numbers, so 6,000. So, and then they also said some of those are wrong. So my question to you is, how much does 6,000 reappraisals cost this county?
Well, there weren't 6,000 reappraisals. There were 6,000 accounts that our office had identified to be relooked at. Not all 6,000 were incorrect. That was just, these are ones that we believe need to be reviewed for sketching errors. And there were not 6,000 errors.
So you don't think that the state, the comptroller, is going to ask for 6,000 reviews?
I don't know. No, I don't know what they're going to do, to be completely honest, Commissioner. I don't know.
Do you have any idea what that'll cost? A ballpark figure?
No, I don't. That's why I just...
Well, I'm thinking that this number, 126, is kind of ambiguous to me because we don't really know, you don't really know how much it's going to cost us.
No, don't know how much it's going to
Where's that
cost.
money going to come from? General fund or?
It will have to be allocated when, it's my understanding that a bill will be sent to the county, and it will be required to be paid. If it is not paid, then the state will simply withhold however much money it takes to cover that from the state sales tax revenue that's normally sent to the county each month. So it's however much it's going to be, they'll either send us a bill and we'll have it accounted for in some form in the budget, or they'll send us a bill and we won't have it accounted for, and if we don't pay it, they'll just say, well, we're taking whatever amount it is out of the state shared tax revenue that comes back. That's my understanding of it.
Mr. Commissioner Harris, if you don't mind, let me interject something, or Michael, if you want to speak first, and I want something also, I recognize the mayor in a moment.
I want to clarify, I think we're thinking about two different things here. I believe the property assessor, Mr. Mitchell, has agreed, to my understanding, I want to clarify to make sure I've got everything right. You've agreed to the mayor's recommendation, but you have, with two exceptions, the request being for personal property audits in line 312 and for postal charges in line 348. However, you didn't mention 308, which is what I think Commissioner Harris is talking about, which is the 250 that was the placeholder. So I think, Commissioner Harris, there's two separate things here. There's the 126 that the property assessor is requesting. That's for personal property audits, not the comptroller's bill. Line 308, the original request was for 250. That's the comptroller's office bill that the property assessor is talking about, that we could be billed and they would take it out of the state shared revenue. Just to clarify there.
He's asking for $250,000.
Right.
Correct, Michael? I mean, 308, he's asking for $250,000 for.
I think he did, and up until tonight, I think he just said he would agree to that at zero. The two exceptions I think he mentioned were the 312, the contractors, private agencies, and the 348 postal charges is what he's requesting a change to the mayor's recommendation on those two lines.
Something I want to interject, and then I'm going to recognize the mayor, is anytime we have a bill and we don't know what it's going to be, we don't normally we can make an estimate, but we know we're going to end up having to pay this. And my suggestion would be, just as I believe I heard Michael and you both say, you agree with the mayor's recommendation here, but the 250 will be removed right now from this line item out of the budget. And if that comes about, then we would take a route to pay for it, and that would probably come out of general fund, I assume, Michael.
I think the proper process for that would be the property assessor would come back, ask for an amendment at that point once he receives the bill, and come back and present to this committee and then to the commission, and at that time there would be a decision made of whether to pay it, fight it, or some other option. But usually that's your two options, is to pay it or fight it.
Okay, I'm going to recognize the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I want to just step back for a second, and I would like to, and I did this last year and the year before, but it's worth repeating, how the mayor's office came to put a recommendation together for the different departments. Myself and Michael and Eric Hennessy meet with each constitutional officer and each department head, and we go through what they believe their requirements are for that particular department or constitutional office, and then literally we come to an agreement, and that is what you see in the mayor's request. That did not happen with Mr. Mitchell and I. He and I did not meet. He was the only office holder or department head did not meet with the mayor's office and Michael Smith. And so how I arrived at the mayor's recommendation was literally with all the unanswered questions as a result of the comptroller's office being in there for the last couple of months. And I expect we'll hear something fairly soon on that outcome of that audit. I just used last year's budget items, knowing that in all likelihood, Mr. Mitchell would have to come back before this body for any supplemental funding, and with an explanation of what that funding was for. So that was the rationale that the mayor's office used for determining what the appropriate amount would be with last year's budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Could I ask a question? Is that with respect to 308?
Commissioner Urban, that is with respect to his entire budget. Our recommendation, essentially, Michael, jump in here, I believe our recommendation for the mayor's office was essentially last year's budget. Was that not right? With some minor changes.
So just to clarify, the line 308, I think the mayor, for his recommendation, left it at 0 because he didn't know really how it came to that amount. And also, I think none of us know what that amount will be, if any. I mean, it may be 0. And then with line 312 and 348, the mayor, if you'll notice, those just equals last year's amounts, I think is how the mayor arrived at the recommendation and just left it there and was going to have the discussion tonight about should or should you not increase it.
You're still recognized. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I think I'm glad everyone was able to reach an agreement on 308. That sounds like basically if additional money needs to come in, we'll take a look at it at that time. That sounds perfectly reasonable and perfectly fair. The contracts with private agencies, which I believe is just personal property audits, basically.
Yes,
Okay. And that was like 91,000. I would be interested in a little bit more. Maybe you could explain briefly why you believe, Rob, it needs to be 126 as opposed to the 80,000 or actuals of 91.1.
It's 124,975, and we generally put a little bit in there in the event that the state finds something or a substitution with another account that it comes up. Usually they try to go through and pare those down, but there may be an account that is determined, well, we need to do a couple more audits. We want to add a couple more on there because there's a necessity, or the state says, we want you to take these accounts off and substitute them with another. So it's just $1,000 or so over what the actual contracted account is, just so there's a cushion in case there's something that's unforeseen that comes up that we can't anticipate right now.
So this is a hard number. The
124, 975 is an exact number from the contractor.
So I guess I'm trying to think why, and I'll ask the mayor, why wouldn't we use the contract number? I'm just trying to understand.
It's a great question because I had no knowledge of it before tonight. Mr. Mitchell.
And that's fair.
Mr.
So
Mitchell
I'm
didn't
trying
meet
to.
with us, so I didn't know.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just trying to understand. So it sounds like Mr. Mitchell's number might be a better number if that is, in fact, exactly how much it's going to cost plus a few dollar cushion.
I've got a question for Michael related to your question, if you don't mind. If this money is approved in his budget and it was not spent, could it be spent for a possible audit cost that we...
If it's approved in his budget and he hadn't spent it, you could easily pass a budget amendment and move it to wherever you'd like.
Okay. Please continue, Commissioner Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And sort of the same question on the postage. I mean, to what extent is $100,000 a hard number, meaning you're going to have, this number of pieces times this amount of postage times what? Is that what it is, or is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll ask the mayor, were you aware? Or I'm not trying to be challenged to anybody.
No, I'm not taking it that way at all, Commissioner. Again, same answer as before. Mr. Mitchell did not meet with the mayor's office, and so we didn't have an opportunity to get a justification or an explanation for why the increase. Without that, I cannot in good conscience promote an increase. That doesn't mean it's not justified. It's just I never heard the explanation, so I went back to last year's budget because I knew there were going to be a lot of unanswered questions in the coming months with regard to this particular part of the budget. So I knew this committee could revisit it at the appropriate time if necessary.
Okay. Question from, I wanted to give Mr. Mitchell. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, sir.
Let me ask Michael, would it be better at this point to make a proposal, since we know these are hard numbers, to increase the budget, or would it be better to keep a little bit of a rolling total and make it in one motion? Because it sounds like these are hard numbers that would justify a modest.
If you want to, if you want to change it to example to the 126 and the 100, it'd be much easier on me if you do it now, and then I will give you a total at the end of every night and then every budget meeting. But it'd be much easier to make that motion now than 3 weeks from now and one of us forget to do it.
If these monies are unspent, they would return to the general fund at the end of the year too. So that's, unless we allowed him to move these monies to something else during the
They'll
year.
never leave the general fund. The property assessor's budget is part of the general fund. Everybody here tonight except solid waste and debt service is going to be part of the general fund. So they will roll into fund balance. But if you're wanting to increase it, the finances office's preference is to do it as each department head or elected official comes up.
And if you do want to make a change, you will need to make a motion now.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to increase, since these are hard numbers, I'm going to make a motion to increase the line 312 from 80 to 126 and 40 to 100, keeping in mind that we can, if necessary, pull them back, as the chairman has noted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second to this motion? And a second. Discussion.
Question.
You recognize Commissioner Pearson.
If nobody knows what they're going to do, if they're going to do anything, or what it's going to cost, how did this become hard numbers on this paper?
These are hard numbers right here on that I'm requesting the change on. These are issued by quotes from Tax Management Associates and from CRS, who is the company that Ted Beatty uses to do his mailings. These are actually quotes back from the individual vendors on what the cost will be.
So what were we discussing prior to this that we didn't know what it would be?
Prior to this, you were discussing line 308 consultants. So you'll notice on your sheet in front of you, on line 308 consultants, there was a $250,000 department request and then a zero under mayor board request. I think Mr. Mitchell has agreed to not ask for any money for that until he gets the bill. That's the one that nobody knows what that's going to cost, and I believe the property assessor can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said he was fine leaving that at zero until he gets the bill.
Okay, what would be the difference to leave it like it is, and when he extinguishes the amount of money in the mayor's offer, come back and ask for more at that time?
Are you talking about for the personal property audits?
Yes.
I guess he could. That
Postage or the where you're changing 80 to 126 and 40 to 100.
Yes, that's the motion, and I hear what you're saying. It is confusing, but it's a different line item. Is the one we don't know the answer to, the 250. No one knows. The others appear to be hard numbers, which is why I made the motion to increase it to hard numbers. If for chance those monies are not spent, as Michael and the chairman have said, they just roll back into the general fund, is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. And so at this point, I think it makes sense to go ahead and do that. But it's obviously up to the committee.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, so the thing that I'm concerned with is, we say 308, pull it out, but at that could be a big deal, big number. And so I'm kind of worried about us not having that. I'm almost thinking that we should have the 250 in there, and for that, just in case something like that happens, because I'm really thinking it's going to come in a lot higher. So, Michael, would it be best to already have that on the budget, or do you think the best way to do it is just do a budget amendment?
My preference would be to do a budget amendment at that time. I think we have adequate reserves to pull that out of, should that occur. I think this body would lose a little control once you put it in the budget.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. With respect to Chairman Harris, I think it'd be better to leave it at zero and then if there's a number, we can then take a look at that number as opposed to putting it in the budget. I think that's more prudent, and I appreciate Mr. Mitchell and the mayor working together apparently on that.
Any other questions or discussion? Call roll. And this, let me repeat first, this is to change the postage line item from the mayor's recommendation to 100,000 and to change the 312 line item to 126,000 from 80. Call roll.
Mr. Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy? No. Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
No.
Commissioner Harris? No. Commissioner P?
Yes. You're going to have to count that one for me.
Motion passes 4-3.
Motion passes 4-3. Are there any other changes to this proposed budget anybody on the committee would like to address? If not, we are going to move on to our next item. Hearing none, we are moving on to the next item.
What does that make the bottom line, Michael?
That added 106,000 was the net change, and the new bottom line will be $3,967,149.
One more time, Michael, repeat it.
$3,967,149. And that added a net change of 106,000, I believe. Hold on. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Have you got something else? I'm sorry. We can go ahead and do that. I'm sorry.
We have a request to transfer from 52,310, line item 106, $10,000 over into line item 52,310, 169 for part-time. That's we've utilized some part-time employees to fill in some spots for the needs of the office, and we were deficient in those funds, so we just respectfully ask for a transfer from our one line item to another.
Okay, you've heard the request. Any questions about it? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Piercy? Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up is Human Resources. Stevenson.
Sonia Stevenson, with HR Director. So I accept the mayor's recommendation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions for Ms. Stevenson? Anything do you want to say about it besides being in concurrence?
Well, there was, I will tell you, there were 4 items that we actually reduced for a total of $30,150. The biggest impact was line 399, which was $25,650 less, and we had conducted a scanning project to scan and make all the personnel records electronic, so if there was ever a fire or natural disaster, that we would have those in an electronic form, plus to make it easier for the departments to be able to view their employees' records. That project was completed, and so that reduced that line item. And then the other items were of significance was $1,000 for professional development, and 2 of our employees are members of SHRM now based on their classification, so we don't have to pay for those training classes for them anymore. It's part of their membership into SHRM. So those were the items that were reduced. The item with the largest significance that was the increase was line 322, the evaluation and testing, and several of the services that we used are increasing, like other items are, and so with the increase of additional, we're going to have additional firefighters due to the new opening of the new public health and safety building. And with that, we have to do physicals that are quite expensive for them. So that's one of the increases. The other increase is just the turnover rate, and the way that we're hiring has increased that. And we don't want to have to come back and ask for money later. As everybody else has said, if we don't use it, we're not going to spend it for something else. We will turn that money back in. One of the things that we did to try to offset the cost of physicals, which is the most expensive item on there, is we found a company that will bring a trailer here to us, and they have their medical team with them, and they actually do the testing on site for all the firefighters at one time, so they're not having to leave their location, and everything's done on site. And so that it came at a cost reduction, interestingly enough, because they were doing them all at one time on the same location. So that's the biggest item of increase that we had.
Okay. Any questions for the director? Any recommendations to change? Hearing none, I'm going to add this to our accepted column for publication, and we'll be accepting the mayor's recommendation.
Thank you.
Next is the county attorney. Good evening.
Good evening. Nick Christensen, county attorney. We reviewed the recommendation and we are in agreement with it. Anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Dick, to your employees that are added there, they are subject to the pay increases that the county gets? Okay.
Yes, we've got one, Ms. Larkin. She assists with delinquent taxes, and whenever the county does a raise, her raise is similarly done.
Okay. And Michael, just for clarification, all of these budgets we're seeing has baked in the raises?
For clarification, and that's a good point to add, clarification, all of this includes the new pension rate, new health insurance rates, new disability rates. It also includes all of the raises that I spoke about on the budget initial presentation last Thursday, except for the county attorney here is his salary and the contract. All of his budget is really governed by, everybody other than Amanda Larkin is governed by the contract that he's under. So that's the one exception to this budget here.
You recognize, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legal services, that's only you and your firm, or only you, or how does that work? Line,
which line item?
331.
Yeah.
So 331 is part of the contract that is a monthly fee for all of the support services that his office provides. And so that's divided out over a 12-month period, evenly divided. That changes anytime Ms. Larkin's salary or that position, shall it be somebody other than Ms. Larkin, that would change because of the way the contract's written. But that line item is divided out over 12 months.
So is it legal services or is it administrative to legal services?
It's the line item to the chart of accounts that we're supposed to put it in, but that monthly fee is meant to cover all of the overhead, copying,
okay.
printing, everything that, like, when he prints resolutions, it covers all of that plus support services.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Christensen? Any recommendations to change the mayor's proposed budget? Hearing none, we're going to accept the mayor's proposed budget. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
We'll be adding that to our list. Next up is our Register of Deeds.
Heather Dahlbarn, Register of Deeds, Rutherford County, and I accept the mayor's recommendation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Heather, on yours, I know you don't have to accept what the mayor recommends on raises. Is this one different, your recommendation?
I'm not sure what the mayor's are. I'm
So
assuming I'm similar.
your initial request that you sent me, I put the across the board on top of that so that
Okay.
your employees, you would have that to dispense how, as a fee official, how you see fit.
They're actually
I
giving
just-
my employees more than I would have, so that's a good thing.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we knew what
Thank
we
you.
were talking about there.
They'll thank you as well.
When we looked at the across-the-board raise, I think in conjunction with the mayor and Sonia, we didn't want to leave anybody out, whether they were in a fee office or not. So we just put that on the salary line. Now, as a reminder, and I should have mentioned this before the Register of Deeds came up, Register of Deeds, County Clerk, Trustee, and Circuit Court Clerk, you'll notice you don't see any salary line items in their budget on your sheet. Those are covered from the fees out of their office that they cover. We budget the FICA taxes, medical insurance, things like that. Also, these fee officials, for example, in the Register of Deeds, some of her increases are covered by her fees that her office generates. So you'll see at one of her line items on data processing equipment, she's going to buy some new scanners for her office. Her fees will cover those, and those are going to be budgeted on the revenue side. But that's why the fee officials, their offices look unique as compared to the rest of the departments.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dahlbarn? Any recommendations to change the proposed budget? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to accept the mayor's budget. And thank you, Ms. Dahlbarn.
Thank you very much.
Next is planning and engineering. We get two to pick on this group, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug DeMasi, Planning Director.
Mike Hughes, County Engineer.
We worked with the Mayor's Office and also Mr. Smith on our budget. We concur with the Mayor's recommendation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
On the planning side, would you mind hitting the major increases? I noticed motor vehicle may be one of them, but.
Yes, sir. The major increase, that pretty much is the major increase with our budget this year, is we were originally looking at the possibility of 2 vehicles. Mayor recommended 1. Again, we are in agreement with that recommendation, so that is the beyond the salary increases and other things Mr. Smith talked about earlier in our budget. That really is the largest mover.
Any questions from the committee? Give you several minutes to look at this one. You still use these vehicles to take the planning commissioners out to observe the site plans?
No, sir, we haven't done that in several years.
Okay, so you hadn't got stuck?
Correct, yes, sir.
We used to routinely get stuck out in the field sometimes, but depending on the driver. Do I hear any questions on the planning's proposed budget? If not, I'm going to go ahead and accept the mayor's proposal on that, and we'll move right along to Mr. Hughes.
Yes, Mike Hughes, Rutherford County Engineer again. And we have reviewed the mayor's recommendation for the stormwater budget, and we are in agreement with that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Would it be possible, right here,
Yeah, I'm looking. I couldn't hear.
would it be possible that before the next director comes up, give us the account number? Because I can find, if it would help me a little bit, if that's okay, I can find it in my book a little quicker than.
I can. Michael,
Because it's in chronological order.
Should be on your agenda. Do you have an agenda?
Thank you. My apologies.
57,800 if you're looking for stormwater.
Mike, what are your major increases in the stormwater?
We are adding a stormwater inspector, and this is needed to inspect home building sites. We have one stormwater inspector for the construction sites, but this is once the lots have been turned over to the building codes department for building permits, we need an inspector to check on, make sure everything's done according to state and county regulations.
So they'll be working under your department, not under code?
Yes, yes.
And I noticed you've got transportation equipment.
Yes, sir. That is just a for, I can't remember what.
That's from some equipment to go, y'all requested some equipment to go in one of y'all's vehicles or some of y'all's vehicles?
Oh, yes. Okay. Tonneau covers, equipment, things like that, lights, safety lights, and things like that for the existing vehicles we have.
Just as a reminder for the committee, we did a new positions list in the front of your book. It's under tab 2. So all the new positions that are requested for the budget. So if you want to ask about what a specific position costs, it is there on that list under tab 2. So this position would be on there.
I'm like the mayor now. You got me flipping pages back and forth. So you've requested one full-time personnel for inspections in the stormwater.
Yes, sir.
And also some equipment increases of 5,000.
Yes, sir. And that's essentially the changes we had from last year's budget, except for the salary changes.
Quick question, engineering services, 57,800, line 321. Actual is 240, budget 15,000. I just wanted to understand, what's it for, and it seems historically low.
Right. We have a state requirement to sample streams, and it's on a 5-year cycle. So some years we require more sampling than others. That last year that was so low, we'd finished the sampling requirement and wasn't in our need to use that money.
Do you anticipate continuing to need the 15?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because it rotates through the streams. We have to sample the tests, and we have to send the samples off to labs to be tested and see what the contaminants are, and that's part of that money.
Okay, you've heard the request, seen the proposal. Any more questions for Mr. Hughes? Do I hear a motion to make a change to the proposed budget for stormwater? Hearing none, we're going to accept the mayor's proposal for the stormwater. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is county buildings. Adam Dodd.
Adam Dodd, Director of Facilities Management. I accept the mayor's recommendation. Be happy to answer any questions regarding my budget.
Chairman,
Yes.
how many employees are you adding? So then why is supervisor director, that's you, correct?
Yes.
Well, it's maintenance personnel is what I'm talking about.
Are you adding employees, Mr. Dodd?
No, sir.
He's not adding any employees, and there's 18 people paid out of the 167 line item.
Yes. So this is just raises?
Yes. And as a reminder to the committee, if you remember the other night on Thursday night, the budgets that are increasing on these salary line items are not just the raises that are going into effect on July 1. It's also 6 months of the raises from last year to budget for the full year that went into effect on January 1.
Any other questions from the committee? I've got something I want to interject before we get through, but anyone else from the committee have a question or want to make a change? Or you recognize, Commissioner?
Thank you. I was wondering on 707 what building improvements we anticipate this coming year.
So there were two in particular buildings that we were looking at. We're looking to upgrade the controls at the clerk's office, 319 North Maple Street, and then we're looking to update the elevator and the controls in this building. And again, those are not reoccurring costs. The budget should stay it stayed the same as the previous year. We're just anticipating making those repairs in this fiscal year budget.
Anyone else from the committee have a question, recommendation? I want to ask for an addition to building improvements, and I haven't spoken to the committee about this. The Conservation Board helps with recreation, and one of the things that I'd like personally to see done is the Kittrell Gymnasium. We're working on getting that back into order so it can be used by the community and by the children of our county. And I'm proposing that, or would like to ask y'all to add $200,000 to his budget that we were just speaking of, building improvement 707. We could stick that under the Conservation Board, but I think we'll get a lot more mileage from Mr. Dodd and his group. And what this would do, this would refurbish the gym there. There's electrical and plumbing hookups that have to be done, are the main things. There's some water issues, but I think that $200,000 may not all have to be used. And of course, that would go back to the county general fund if it wasn't used at the end of the year. But I'd request that someone would add that to his budget. And if you've got any questions for me on that, I'm welcome to entertain those. But anyway, after you've looked at his budget, if anybody wants to make a change to the mayor's budget or any recommendations, you're recognized.
Chairman, on your proposal, what would be the benefits, Director Smith, as far as putting that here as opposed to the conservation budget? Or is there any?
It's not much difference from a budgetary perspective. Probably the best thing would be that if you spent 190 and there was a $10,000 need somewhere else in the county, it would already be in Adam Dodd's budget. I mean, so, but either one is fine. It's probably easier for me to put it here, but I can add an account to the Conservation Board's budget just as easy if needed.
Okay, you guys have heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion to change or to leave this as it is, the mayor's recommendation?
Make a motion to increase the budget on line 707 for $200,000.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? And a second. Any further discussion?
Question. How do we justify adding $200,000 to his budget for Kittrell and not adding other money to his budget for the other communities?
Well, I don't know. Right offhand, I would say we added about $200,000 to add a driveway at Las Casas' facility so the people over there could drive back to the ball field and put up a stone fence that we didn't use at Kittrell. That would be one justification, but this is something that everybody in the community can use, that not just Kittrell area, but kids from other areas can also come there and use that facility. Our community center, Rockville, Higginville, has got facilities like that. Las Casas has got a facility the community can use, and I think it's fair that the people over at Kittrell also have. We were using the old fire hall, and that's been given over to the new fire department. So our people in Kittrell do not have a facility that they can readily use. So that's why I think it's warranted. Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second to add to line 707, 200,000. Any other changes or any other discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy? Yes. Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Dodd.
Thank you.
Okay,
Chairman
next,
P, before you go any further,
you're recognized.
I have a question for Michael. The numbers the mayor has proposed in this budget, does it affect the tax increase whatsoever?
There is no tax increase proposed with the mayor's budget.
Do we have a cushion in this amount? Because we've successfully added 286,000 and we're just down to about 8 departments.
We've added you've added 306,000 tonight.
Okay.
I don't anticipate that 300,000 will cause a tax increase, but yes, at some point, that cushion would be gone, but that number, and I don't want to say it's arbitrary, it depends how much this body would want to dip into fund balance, and it would depend on several other factors as we get into June, to the end of this month in June, but as of right now, 306, my recommendation would not be a tax increase, but there's a lot of factors that would go into that depending on how much you'd want to dip into fund balance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, Mayor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the question from Commissioner Piercy, because the mayor's office is adamant about not having a property tax increase. So if this body starts to increase the request to a point where Michael would say we have to do something, then it would be my recommendation that we talk about what we're going to take from the budget before we do a property tax increase. I'm pretty adamant in that regard, and I think some of you are as well. But I think we're okay right now, but I think we do need to be careful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I agree wholeheartedly with your statements. All right, next up is the archives.
That total went from 59 to 61, right, Michael?
The new total will be $6,198,558.
John?
John Lodell, Director, Rutherford County Archives, and we accept the mayor's proposal.
John, what are your major changes? Any?
We have some minor increases. 355 in travel. If you remember, we added 1 employee last year, so we're up to 4 employees now. And that's a number that hasn't moved much over the years, but now that we have 4 employees, not just myself, there's a little more need to send those folks to conferences or other types of professional training, usually conferences. Minor increase in gasoline, 425, because we're moving a lot more court records between the judicial systems. That includes juvenile on Shelbyville Highway there, and the archives. And we do that daily, multiple times. And I asked the mayor to increase 499. Other supplies and materials, they're again just trying to keep up with the growth in staff and the amount of work that we've increased at the archives. The number's actually still too low. I'm not complaining. I always go for grants to try to supplement the difference.
Any questions for Mr. Lodell? If you haven't visited his office, you need to. It's pretty interesting. But
Do. We had that great addition in 2020. And then we had the Historical Research Center library move in 21. So we have a lot of activity, foot traffic now, so please come visit.
yeah. Do I hear any recommendations from the committee or any questions from Mr. Lowell? Hearing no recommendations for change, we're going to accept the mayor's recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Lowell.
Yeah.
Next up is risk management.
Mr. Chairman, I have a change as the risk management director walks up. Their longevity line item did not get added, and my request is that we add $675 to their longevity line item in their budget.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll hold that motion for a second then. Any questions for, let Mr. Elam go ahead.
Good evening, Ed Elam, Insurance and Risk Management Director. And I also agree with the mayor's recommended budget.
Mayor, you heard Michael's.
I concur.
You concur, okay. And what was that amount again, Michael?
That was a clerical error on my part. Their longevity line item 186. If you'll notice, it's 0 on both the department request and the mayor's request, but that amount would need to be $675.
Michael, would that have to be reflected in the total as well?
It will be. I mean, I can read it for the record if you'd like.
If you don't mind, please. Thank you.
If there's no other changes, that would change the total to $3,087,717.
One more time, Michael.
So that would add $675 to line item 186, and that would be the new total of $3,087,717.
Okay. Any other changes other than the one that Commissioner Irvin has noted? I do have a motion from Commissioner
186, longevity pay.
So Commissioner Irvin has a motion. Do I hear a second to add the longevity pay? And a second. Are there any other changes or questions for Director on this proposed budget? I've got a question bouncing around in my head, and we were discussing in purchasing a while ago that we're deferring, what was the item that we defer? Stop loss?
Yes, it was the stop loss that we're extending the RFP.
So what we've done is you've got an estimate in there, is that right? Is that in another item?
Totally separate from this. Stop loss policy is paid out of Fund 264. That's our self-insurance fund for medical. So that does not affect this. We have built the estimate for that into the medical rates that every payroll we pay over into that fund. So that will not affect anything we do here tonight.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to add them $675. Any other discussion? Call roll, and this will be for this entire budget.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Piercy? Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, GIS, Geographic Information System. By the way, Cody, I'm hearing people much better tonight. Have y'all made many changes or?
Well, that's the rebalancing. So hopefully, as long as everybody uses their mics, you'll be able to be heard. But the end of last week in June, first week in July is when the complete overhaul will happen. And you'll notice because there'll be some changes.
Okay.
So.
Well, you've made a big improvement already. Thank you.
Thank you. Cody York, representing GIS. I'm the director of OIT. The GIS budget, we concur with the mayor's recommendation.
One of the biggest hitters you've got is your license. Why that big of an increase? Just the cost increase or many more?
That's both of those things. So there are additional people utilizing the service, but also the service is increasing. Which one? Oh, which one are you looking at?
I was actually looking at 33, but 333, but yeah, you're right, it has gone down. I was looking at through the April estimate.
Oh, okay.
What I was looking at increase. You've actually subtracted that now that I look over.
This is a total decrease of his budget of about $37,000. But what he's referring to is the licenses line item went down by 74 from 505 last year to 431. And then remember, we took the budget amendment.
Yeah, that's
this past month for the 709 to replace the storage.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. No, the large expense item that would have been in the budget, we had to move to this year's budget because of the failing storage array at the JC.
You've got an overall decrease then.
Yes, sir. Roughly $30,000.
Any other questions for Mr. York? Do I hear any recommended changes to the mayor's recommended budget? Hearing none, we're going to add that to our accepted column and move on to your next one, which is information technology.
Yes, so this also I concur with the mayor's recommendation for the budget for here. for
Cody, this is the licenses that,
Yeah, this
that you
this
were
is the
thinking
one
about.
that you're referencing, the licenses that you're referencing. So this is both a mix of increased license. This was our renewal. We have 3-year licenses with Microsoft. So this was a renewal year for that. So those prices went up. But they also, every person that we add to the county's employment is another Microsoft license. Almost everyone, almost all full-time employees get the email and Word and Microsoft Excel and those kinds of things. And they also, there's a litany of licenses that follows each employee when we hire a new employee. So that's part of the price, but also in IT, there's a term, everyone's familiar with the term inflation. In IT, there's an IT inflation, and it is significantly higher than the regular inflation that people experience, particularly lately with the tariffs. Almost everything in IT comes from China. So when you start talking about the uncertainty of what the costs will be of hardware coming from China, costs go up significantly on everyone in the IT world.
Chairman, so do you have kind of a baseline number and then a cushion, or do you, when you're looking at the licensing cost and other stuff, I'm trying to get a sense of how solid is the number?
Yeah, so the number is, in my world, when we ask people for a bid, so what we do is, it's not a bid. Almost everything we buy is on statewide contract or GSA or some other competitively priced thing. So we say, hey, we need a budgetary number, so people provide us with a budgetary number. Even if we get a hard quote, those are now only good for sometimes 30 days, depending on the vendor, sometimes 2 weeks. So even if we got a hard quote, that number is really, when we come back 4 months from now to purchase it, we have a rough estimate. So depending on the history of a depending on how good I feel about that number, sometimes I will go with just that number. So there's some vendors, some companies that rarely raise their prices. We kind of have a real good idea what that number is going to be. They tell us this is a solid budgetary number. This is what it's going to be when you send us the PO. Then there are other companies that we have, they will just tell you, hey, this is only good for 30 days. After that, who knows what the number's going to be. So we'll have to build in a little bit for that. But we try to do a good job of managing that, and every year we return money back to the general fund from where we overestimate.
Thank you.
Line item 317, that data processing services, that's probably the biggest jump I see. Can you enlighten me on that a little?
Yeah, so data processes services, that what you're probably, so there's a $100,000 increase. There's a new service that we're getting. It's called, actually, I would prefer to not name the vendor, but it's connected to cybersecurity. It's a tool that will allow us to search all of the files that we have in storage and determine if that file has something that may be protected personal information. So I'll give you an example. An organization of our size has millions of files. So this software, this program, will go read those files and come back and tell you, hey, I have found a file that appears to have Social Security numbers. The file, the number format is similar to a Social Security number. And that file, because of the way it was saved by the person who created the file, it is readable by everyone in your organization. So that will tell us, hey, we need to go look at this file and figure out if it does have Social Security numbers in it, then that's a file we need to lock down. We need to make it not available to everyone in the organization. So that's what this program does. Very often in the information security realm, it's not the files you know about that have personal information. It's the files you don't know you have that get you in trouble.
Is there any connection between our system and the school system, or are they integrated, or I don't know the answer, so
Yes. So there is a VPN tunnel that connects our network with the school's network. So yes, they are connected.
Mayor, you're recognized.
Thank you. I want the committee to know, and you already know this anyway, but it's absolutely worth repeating. Cody and his team do a phenomenal job. As we all know, cybersecurity attacks are common anymore. As a matter of fact, today I found out from my wife that our bank account got hacked. And so, which is not uncommon. That is not uncommon. It wasn't a big deal, but we were proactive. But it all stems from other organizations being hacked or compromised, and that information then is disseminated in the dark web. And the reason I'm saying all this is Cody and his team do a great job trying to be proactive. Unfortunately, gentlemen, it is expensive, but the cost of being wrong one time can be catastrophic. And so Cody is constantly vigilant in making sure that he's doing everything reasonable to protect the county's systems. And so I want to thank you, Cody.
Thank you. And this is a ongoing, active problem. So we have different classes of cybersecurity events. There are thousands of security events every day. Most of those are handled by our automated systems and our services that just take care of it, and we don't see anything. Then there are what we call targeted cybersecurity events, and those are events that I report to the mayor, to Ed Elam with risk management. Those are less frequent, but are still frequent enough to be, sometimes I wear the mayor out. So, but yeah, this is a tool, this program is a tool that will help us identify files that we need to make sure are secure, that right now there is no way of finding other than having a human go into a directory and open every file in it and try to read the file and find Social Security numbers or health information or addresses or things like that.
Any questions for the director related to the mayor's proposed budget? Hearing no recommendations for a change, we're going to accept the mayor's proposed budget and add that to our list. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you, committee, chairman.
Next up is our trustee.
Good evening. I'm Ted Beatty, Rutherford County Trustee, and I accept the mayor's recommendation.
I see very little changes other than a little bit to the tax relief program and a couple other, most of it's related to the increases that everyone's getting.
Quick question. Is the tax relief program the expenses of administering a program, or is that the offset to the taxes?
That is the actual money we expend as a part of the match that we do to the tax relief program. We match up to a total maximum of $306. So that is actually the administration that is just in our office budget. Those are actually matching dollars. So those are dollars that actually go back to taxpayers.
Foregone tax dollars, basically.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I think we're one of the few counties that actually matches what the state does there, so.
We do. We actually match 2 for 1 up to that total of $306.
Any other questions for our trustee?
Is that the senior program? Or is that
It's for seniors, disabled homeowners, and disabled veterans and their surviving spouses.
Any other questions for Mr. Beatty? Or any suggested changes to the mayor's recommendation? Hearing none, we're going to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Next up is the Pet Adoption and Welfare Services. Michael.
Good evening, Michael Gregory, Rutherford County Policy Director. We do agree with the mayor's recommendation for our budget for next fiscal year.
Any questions for the director from the committee? A few minutes more to check it out. Michael, anything you want to point out?
Really, the only changes, other than just $1,000 here or there was a reduction in line 709. The bulk of that, $65,000 in this year's budget, is for the body-worn cameras that we're still working to get implemented. And then line 790 increased fairly significantly, and that's to replace an aging washer and dryer within the shelter. It's a commercial washer and dryer like you would have at the sheriff's department or workhouse or those type things.
Michael, was that camera system you mentioned, was that part of a grant?
No, sir. That was funded fully by the county in this year's budget. And that was for, that cost was for a 5-year program.
We did have a body-worn camera grant at the sheriff's office.
Okay. Any questions for Michael on this budget or any suggestions for a change? Hearing none, Michael, we're going to accept your mayor's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, Solid Waste and Sanitation Fund. Well, I don't see Bishop. Is he going to be here to cover this?
Well, that's a question, Mr. Chairman.
That's a good question. We'll give him a few minutes and we're going to move to the next one while we're checking on that, which is the debt service fund. Michael, could you go ahead and talk about that?
So debt service fund is going to be all the way back at tab 15, just as switching tabs on you. I don't have a lot to add on here other than this pays for this budgets all our principal and interest payments for the bonds that we have. This sufficiently covers that. The one thing I want to point out is that if you add up the revenue and expenses in this fund, you're going to see a small surplus of about $600,000 if you add up total revenues, total expenses. However, if y'all remember the other night, we're passing the resolution. It'll go to commission Thursday night for the new bond issuance for approximately $110 million. We will come back and revise this budget for that at that time for the interest payment for next year and a potential principal payment. Other than that, I'll take any questions on that fund if you have any.
Any questions for the director?
Mr. Chairman, just a brief kind of 30,000, 40,000 foot level. We have adequate debt service coverage thing that's currently owed, and it's in the hopper for the life of the debt, current and anticipated.
That's correct. The other thing, and that's a good point, the other thing I want to add to that is there's a line that's 82,310, 699. You'll notice this past year it had 2.7 million in it, and next year it has 1.5 million in it. And if y'all remember, we had our enterprise lease agreements a couple years ago. We had shifted to try to pay all that off in here, and so that line item is for that. We should have all those paid off next year. That 1.5 will roll into paying the principal, help paying the principal payments on the new debt we're fixing to issue. To help cover that along with that $600,000 surplus. But then next year we have about $6 million. We have a bond that we're paying off next year from 2026 or 2016. So that'll free up about another $5 or $6 million to cover the approximate $8 million principal and interest payment a year on the 110 to 112, whatever that ends up being. So to answer your question is yes, and I am starting to look and project and see what's the next needs, coming down the pipe. And so we are running those calculations, and I feel comfortable with where we're at.
Thank you.
Mr. Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Smith, on what exactly is pickup taxes?
Are you looking at the revenue?
40150.
Under 151.
We send somebody around that picks up everybody's taxes. No, I'm kidding.
Help them stay out of Blackman.
No, I'm going to tell you off the top of my head, it is something collected. So when you look down through there, all of those are in property taxes. So current property tax, that's self-explanatory. That's what you pay. Trustees collection, those are taxes that are collected by or prior year. Those are past due collections. Clerk and master collections, after a certain time, the trustee turns those over to the clerk and master's office, Chancery Court. They collect those. Interest and penalties, what it sounds like, that's interest and penalty that somebody pays. I don't know exactly what pickup taxes are off the top of my head.
Well,
but it goes in conjunction. It is connected with those.
With the property tax. Mm-hmm. So under what situation would they go down? I'm showing that the actual in April this year is 101,000, mm-hmm. and you're projecting, I guess, the same as last year.
But if you look back in last fiscal year, the actual was 82. So anything that's not current fluctuates massively. And let me give you an example. So look up there at 40120 on trustees collection prior year. So last year we collected 125,000, and this year we collected 623. And so it all depends on who turns over late taxes, who has interest. Your guess would be as good as mine, is what I'm saying. So I just look at kind of a historical average. And so what I'm saying is I could have never known at the time we did the budget last year that we would have collected 623 on prior year, because the previous year before we had 125. It all depends on who's delinquent, who's paying, things like that. For example, we may have a large taxpayer that's under appeal. So we always only collect the undisputed portion of taxes, so we don't have to pay the penalty to the taxpayer. And so I kind of look at some historical averages and what's material to the budget. And by that I mean, could I put that $68,000 number at 101? Sure, but we may get $20,000 up or down. Is not really going to affect a budget of $69 million is what I'm getting at. So we typically look at some historical averages. If I'm aware of a large taxpayer who hasn't paid us, sometimes we'll take that into account. But anything other than current property taxes is going to fluctuate massively depending on if there's a large taxpayer out there who is in dispute with the Board of Equalization, somebody who's just hasn't paid, somebody we're going to foreclose on. I mean, so like I said, 40120 probably tells the story the best, but same instance for all of those taxes are all past due.
Okay, and one more question on the debt service. So the investment income, you're projecting 3 million as you projected last year, but so far we're at 7.2 million. In the prior year, 9.3 million.
So that's going to be a little different. You're going to see something similar in the general fund. So what happens there is when we go borrow a bond, so for instance, you remember we borrowed 150 or 160 million, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, for the 3 high school additions, the transfer station, the I-24. It's a large dollar amount, right? That earns interest. We try to earn interest as that money's sitting here. That interest goes directly back. It's not split across all the funds like the rest of our interest. So as we spend that money down quicker, less interest comes in there. So I'm not ever sure how fast the schools are going to spend down their money for a school or something like that. Now, we typically just don't want to rely on reoccurring investment income to pay the bond payments, because once we spend down that bond borrowed money, it's gone. We just happen to have borrowed a lot over the last 2 or 3 years. So definitely I think that's a super conservative number, but that's a different risk than what we can talk about in the general fund, which is kind of more of an interest rate risk. This, if they spend it down quicker than I anticipate, that interest is going to go down. If they don't spend it, there was some delays on Oakland and Riverdale, so we earned more interest because that money was sitting there. So that's different than kind of the general fund, but yes, we could definitely increase that. One of the things we've done is, as we've conservatively budgeted there, if that comes in higher, if y'all remember this year, we called debt for the first time in a long time, and we paid off a little over $7 million in debt. So that money doesn't go to waste. We called that debt, and it freed up some debt capacity so that we could, borrow this 112 and not have a tax increase. But that one has a little bit different than the general fund. You'll see it also conservatively budgeted in the general fund.
Any other questions on debt service? You're recognized, Mayor.
You're having a hard time finding me, aren't you?
Well, the sound, I've got the speaker in front of me, and the sound doesn't give a direction. So.
I don't like it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, can you explain for the Budget Committee why on 40110 account number, the current property tax, the prior year, we collected $61.5 million approximately, but your department request for that same collection item is almost $1 million less?
Mm-hmm. Well, we really wanted to give Commissioner Gooch a property tax break. So I'm going to flip back. We're flipping a lot. If you can flip back to tab 1, you're going to have a brand new summary that I put in your book tonight. There is part of the mayor's proposal, and we're asking to reduce 1.3 pennies out of the debt service fund. So when we reduce pennies, that property tax estimate goes down. And so part of what we've done, the long-term kind of plan since I've been here, you've seen at least 2 or 3 refundings that I've brought. So part of that is we're trying to free up debt capacity, with the same time shifting property tax to cover other things, whether that be public safety raises or things like that. And so part of this budget involves moving several pennies around, and part of that is moving 1.3 pennies out of the debt service fund and shifting it up to the general fund to close that gap and better utilize those pennies. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Thank you.
Any other questions for the director? Not, do I hear a motion to make any changes to the debt service fund as proposed? Hearing none, we're going to move forward and go to the next item, and accept the recommendation there on the debt service fund, and move to the county commission fund. Michael, you going to cover this one for us?
So as you're looking at the county commission budget, flipping pages here, there's really no increase from the beginning last year's original budget. If y'all remember, there was a trip that a county commissioner took that we amended $5,000 in. I think tomorrow night you will see a conference travel payment policy for the commission that y'all could vote on. So everything's the same in there because we haven't changed the fee structure of the pay for the county commissioners or the committee meetings. However, tomorrow night, if y'all were to approve your commissioner payment or travel policy, you could amend some money in there. We could fund those conferences or trips on a trip by trip or conference by conference basis. That is really up to this committee or to the commission, but everything's really the same as the prior year, no increase.
Any questions on the county commissioner's budget? Any recommended changes? Mr. Harris.
So if I want to come back and add something in the county commission by taking out of something else, can I do that later?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Michael?
Michael, the meeting schedule calls for, is it 13 meetings plus the additional special call meeting if necessary, or is it 12 total?
I budget for 13 meetings. Now, every once in a while, if like election year, we'll have an extra one in September, and things like that. Sometimes we'll have to come back and add a little. And so I try to we budget some extra budget committee meetings because budget committee meets more than any other committee, those types of things. I think the last time we had to amend this for more was the election year where we had a couple extra meetings, one to swear in the new members, but typically we have members that are absent, and so we have a savings there. But yes, I budget 13 meetings for the commission, and I budget a few extra committee meetings for that and purchasing. Now, every once in a while, we'll have too many special calls, and I'll have to amend mid-year or at the end of the year. But right now, I've got 13 for the normal.
Any other questions? Do I hear a recommendation to make any changes to the commission budget? Hearing none, we're going to accept the commissioner's budget and move to the county mayor's budget. I assume the mayor agrees with the mayor's request.
With great internal debate, yes, Mr. Chairman, we approve of the mayor's recommendation.
Just wanted to be sure. So. Mayor, do you have a request for new personnel?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to explain that, justification for that, and then, of course, answer the committee's questions in that regard. So, as you know, the mayor's office has two personnel, Carla and Rachel, and they do a phenomenal job, and along with Mr. Hennessy. And so what we have found is when we have one of the ladies in the office is out on sick or on vacation, we can handle that internally pretty well for a day or two. But once we get to about day 3, things get clogged up. And we try to pride ourselves on moving, especially purchase order and purchase requisitions through in a timely fashion, and we've been pretty good about that. I don't know if the committee knows it or not, but we don't have a mayor's signature stamp. I sign every requisition with a blue ink pen, but I can tell you that Carla and Rachel really keep that process moving. As the county's growing, the administrative office side of county government is also growing, and it's just meant to meet that demand for office personnel in the mayor's office, and then to assist Eric in all the contracts he literally is reading and reviewing. Literally dozens of contracts on a monthly basis he reviews. As a matter of fact, I can say I've never signed a contract that Mr. Hennessy and or Mr. Christensen didn't read and review. And it's done well for the county, because this county has not been, the mayor's office hasn't been named as a defendant in a lawsuit, and so that's a big deal. So we take a lot of pride in making sure that we're doing it right, we're doing it efficiently, and we're just asking for this body to give us the additional resource to continue to do that. Thank you.
Is that under 161 or under Assistance 103? And I assume you're asking.
That is under 161, isn't it, Michael? The additional personnel? Yes, sir.
161?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that would be an admin 2. I think that's how we classified it at Sonia, as an admin 2.
So this person would be doing the same thing that Carla and Rachel are doing right now.
And additionally assisting Eric as well. Yes, sir.
And what is the amount that's additional?
The total increase, including, estimated benefits, is $68,628.
That's just for this assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I've been here longer than a lot of you have been. But at one time, we did have 3 assistants in the mayor's office for several years. And I can see what the mayor's talking about when one of the ladies is on vacation, that there's a problem there. I don't know if we could do that with part-time, or, maybe better serve this anyway. I'm just throwing that out there, that is something we have done in the past. Like I said, I'm not advocating one way or the other there. Jeff, you do remember what I'm talking about.
I do. Michael, is it best clerical responsibility to the county commission, attending all the meetings, doing all the minutes, those type of things? Would that additional person be better suited under the commission budget or the mayor's budget?
Well, I think it depends. If you wanted to hire a clerk for the commission, then it would be probably better in the commission. But I think in this case, it's to help with the purchasing piece. So what he's asking for would be better under the mayor's budget. I think if we put something in the commission, y'all would have to oversee them, and it would be a change there.
I'm not advocating for that, but a lot of the time that one of the people that works in the mayor's office does a lot of work. Carla is here, Rachel was here before, at every meeting, with the exception of the budget committee meeting, I guess, even including purchasing. So there's a lot of, I don't know whether it's overtime or just a lot of extra time. And if it's best to be under the mayor's budget, I'm 100% fine with that. But we've never really needed and haven't been responded to. So if it goes under the mayor's budget, I'm okay with that. It was just a question where it needed to be.
I did, at one time, several years ago, like more than 10? More than 10 years ago, we did have a person that was budgeted under county attorney's budget, but after that changed, that was Miss Becky Shelton. After that changed from a part-time kind of deal to this, so.
Chairman. All right, so you said the difference is $68,000. So you're asking for $68,000 for an assistant?
Yeah, I believe that includes all insurance, retirement benefits, the whole thing. Isn't that right, Michael? The total cost.
The pay would be roughly $44,000 at a grade 5 or step 5. So all in all, at an estimated step 5 would be $68,628. The estimated pay at that grade 15, step 5 would be 44,751.
Okay, and assistant, 103. Is this Eric? Is this Eric's line?
He is a part of that line, yes.
Okay, then how much is the raise that the mayor's asking for Eric? Or his chief of staff?
You want me to? Oh, I didn't know who you were directing the question to, Mr. Chairman.
Doesn't matter, whoever.
I believe it's 13%. Yes, sir.
So, to my understanding, I believe steering past a couple years ago where we raised that position to 66.67%. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Okay, and then you're asking for it to go up to?
8, yes, sir. That is correct.
My question is this. That puts him in line with being a department head, and to my understanding, he was hired as an assistant administrative position. Now you're trying to say he's a lawyer when me and you talked about this, and I told you he's not a lawyer for you. He's a lawyer, but he doesn't represent this county in any capacity in that. And now you're saying he does contracts. My question is this: is Nick not supposed to be doing that?
So, you and I disagree. He was not hired as administrative assistant. He was hired. The job classification, I think Sonia can help me out here. The job description, while it didn't require an attorney, it was strongly preferred. The reason is, going back to the very beginning, it was my understanding after I was sworn in almost 3 years ago that there were a number of contracts that were not being reviewed by the county attorney. Through no fault of the county attorney, they weren't making their way over to the attorney's office to be reviewed before they were signed. And so just the sheer volume of contracts mandated that the mayor's office have somebody to do a preliminary review of the contract before it was sent to Nick. That process has expedited contract approval immensely and ensured that every contract is reviewed, if not by one, at least 2 attorneys. You are correct, Chairman Harris, that Mr. Hennessy, with a law degree, does not represent the county in legal matters. However, he does provide legal advice to me, to you, to another legal opinion to the county attorney, which makes good sense. And so as the county has grown, that part of his role has increased dramatically. But you are correct, he does not represent the county mayor on legal matters, nor does he represent the county in legal matters. That is the responsibility of Nick Christensen.
That's where I'm confused. So, Michael, tell me this. Tell me the raises that were given, the mayor's recommended raises for county employees. That might be a tough question, but.
Well, this year there is a lot of different amounts. The across-the-board raise would be 2%. There are then about between 400 and 500 reclasses, the majority of those being detention, patrol, fire, and EMT. So I get them all, Sonia? Those are the majority. Those get some grade changes. Everybody's eligible for their 1.75 step. I believe the fire, EMTs, and detention would get an additional approximately 6. Roughly 6. Is that, I'm looking at Sonia, is that 2 grade changes? Yeah, would be an additional 6. So they would get a 9.75, if my math correct, roughly, if they're eligible for a step increase.
And that's if they're due a step increase. I mean, so it won't be an exact amount.
That's why I can get close.
Like,
I mean,
if people are listening
number
to this, I don't want them to think, well, my paycheck's short because I didn't get 9% or whatever.
So if you're eligible for a step increase, that's approximately 1.75, give or take 0.1%. There's a 2% lift across the board on all pay tables. And then some people are getting several grade changes, but the majority for EMTs, fire, and detention are getting 2 grade changes, which is approximately 6%, give or take a tenth.
I And I believe all that is on top of the 4.5 that the commission gave in January. And as just for context, Mr. Hennessy did not receive a 4.25 in January because he's tied to the mayor's salary directly by resolution.
Michael, since we're talking about attorneys, line item 331, legal services, what does that pay for?
So that pays for several things, but the majority of what that pays for is when we get an hourly rate bill from the county attorney's office. When a lot of those bills are pause bills where they represent us for pause. That's the majority of those bills. But if they represent the county in court, we get billed on an hourly basis. And so those are bills that are not run through our self-insurance fund. So like I said, the majority of those are pause. But if we have a condemnation hearing or something, or some type of legal proceeding, those are paid out of there. We pay some Westlaw subscriptions, some things like that out of there. But the majority of it's legal fees from the county attorney's office.
Okay.
You'll also see a corresponding same line item in Fund 116, where we have our environmental lawyer that we pay out of there. But those are based on an hourly fee.
Okay, so this administrative assistant you're wanting to hire, is she going to be I know she answers to you, but is she going to be the assistant to Eric? So he's going to have his own secretary, or is this like somebody's going to do everything?
No, this will report directly to me. He or she may assist Eric from time to time as necessary, but this primarily is to assist Carla and Rachel.
And the other thing, and I've already talked to the mayor about this, and I'm wanting to, at this time, take $100,000 out of his consulting. I'm not saying we might not put it back in, but me, the mayor, and steering committee, and the county attorney, we're going to be coming up with a contract for lobbyists. I've already talked to the mayor about that. I want to take that $100,000 out and put it in the county commission budget, but I want to come back on that. But I do want to take that out. I also, and this is a motion, Michael, can you tell me how much a 9% raise would be for what that number would be?
All right, so I want to clarify because the math is a little wonky on this. Do you want to take?
I want to take 66.67%, add 9 to it.
Okay.
That gives him the 4% plus the 5%, so it's 9%.
Can we say around 75? Would that be better? That's easier for me mathematically.
Sure.
And you want what that number would be?
Yes.
Sonia, can you double check me too? $151,008.75. So $151,009.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, my motion is I'd like to I want his chief of staff to get a 9% raise at $151,009. I want to take $100,000 out of line 399 to be revisited, and I don't have a problem with the administrative assistant. So I guess you need to tell me what's the amount that I need to come out of the 1.625, so it'd be.
Can I restate your motion and make sure I got it? If it's amenable to you, could we restate it to say that we would like to change the chief of staff pay to 75% of the mayor's salary and then you would like to reduce the contracted services line item by 100,000. And then I'll calculate that and give you a total.
Okay, so that's your motion. Do I hear a second before we have any more discussion? I do not hear a second. Motion fails for lack of a second. Any other discussion or motions?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask, could you give us a breakdown of the 400? What is that for? I mean, I think Chairman Harris has already alluded, I think that's where he was going to take his 100 out. But what's the remaining 300?
Mayor, do you want me to?
I'm not following Commissioner Irvin. Commissioner, can you tell me?
Sure, it's 51,300.
Yes, sir.
Number 399, and I'm asking for a breakdown of the 400,000.
Other contracted services?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Michael, can you help me break that out, please?
So it's these are round numbers because we estimate this, but approximately 240-ish thousand is Crimson Security. That's going to be for the security guard you see downstairs, the one over at the Risk Management HR building, and the county clerk's office. And then the other is the postage, leasing for the postage machine makes up the other main piece of that. We never know what that exact postage in Crimson is going to be based on the amount of hours they work or overtime. So the remaining 300 is those two.
So I had 240 for security and
It's roughly and another 50 or so thousand for the postage and leasing.
Oh, 50 or so, okay.
Yeah, because that would get you to the, I round up on those because I never know what the exact amount's going to be on the Crimson or the
50K postage and then 100 for contract.
And like I said, it's more the leasing for that because a lot of departments use that. It's the one downstairs in the mailroom, and we just leave it all in one budget.
Okay, if the 100 is left in there, does it have to come through for the lobbyist? Does it have to come through the commission, or is that something the mayor can do on his own?
Something, I want to interject something, if it's okay, Commissioner.
Sure.
There's been a change in the state law for the MOE, correct me if I'm wrong, for the mayor's budget. Once we set the mayor's budget at a certain level.
That does not include this piece, though. But it includes, I can read it for you, it includes salaries, benefits, office supplies, communication expenses, postal charges, duplicating services. I don't know why they just didn't say printing, but that's what they said. Professional development training and membership dues and fees is what that includes.
So if we left the lobbyist amount in there, that would not be part of the maintenance of effort. And we would not, if we decided we wanted to pull that 100,000 or whatever that amount was, that would not affect the maintenance of effort.
That's my understanding of the way the law is written.
So, I was given that particular piece of legislation because I think it passed out of mayor in Bedford County. And my understanding with talking with both Eric and Nick is Michael's understanding of the law is because contracted services, lobbyists, consultants, however you want to classify Mr. Denami, it's not listed. Because it's not listed, then it's not a part of that particular statute. So Mr. Smith is correct in that, as far as we know.
Well, that was a concern of mine, but anyway, that related to your question, but go ahead.
And that was actually, great minds think alike, I guess. I was going to ask about the MOE, what's included and not included, but I'm still trying to figure out if that 100,000 still has to be approved by steering in the commission before that contract is signed. It just happens to be in the budget. The mayor does not have the ability, with respect to the mayor, does not have the ability to simply run it through somewhere and sign it, right?
It's my understanding, if I can answer that, if hypothetically, let's assume this body approves that $100,000 for the next budget year, that to spend that $100,000 would still require the approval of the steering committee approving the contract and moving on to the full commission. So the two have to work in tandem. You can't approve one and the other not be approved. Michael, am I saying that right?
Close.
But no cigar, right?
Once you put $100,000 in the mayor's contracted services budget, that is in his budget. He's the chief purchasing officer of the county. So let's say that the lobbyist contract is not approved. That does not mean the mayor cannot go spend $100,000 on something that includes contracted services. It means he couldn't go hire Mr. Denami as his lobbyist, but it doesn't mean he still doesn't have $100,000 to spend on contracted services as long as it meets all the purchasing laws of the county. Then we would have to get into what that is. So partially the statement is partially true, but once it's in the budget, it's his to spend how he sees fit as long as it's within the applicable rules and laws of.
Well, let me make a commitment here. I'm not interested in getting crossways on this issue at all with this body or anybody else. And so what Chairman Harris mentioned a few minutes ago is that we're working on a resolution to the reporting methods of Mr. Denami. That is going to come to a satisfactory conclusion, and I don't even know what that is yet. But I've given my commitment to him, and he's given his commitment to me that we're going to work this out. And as a matter of fact, we're going to start scheduling a meeting pretty quickly. So you have my commitment in that regard. So wherever that $100,000 is budgeted for Mr. Denami for those services that he provides is not as important to me as that we continue with those services, because I do believe they have a lot of value to the county.
Steering vote is 7-0 to redo the contract, and me and the mayor will be sitting down with county attorney and discussing how we're going to do this. I propose, and what I'm trying to tell y'all is we're trying to take the $100,000 from the mayor's budget for the lobbyists and put it into the county commission budget. That way we would be issuing that money coming out of our budget to pay the lobbyists, and it would be renewed every year. So it's easier for us to do it that way. The commission is going to be the authority body on this, so that's why I'm saying move the $100,000 from the mayor's budget to the county commission budget just for the lobbyists. I don't even know if the mayor's got is Mr. Denami part of your $400,000? Is he part of that? Okay. So all I'm trying to do is, and I'm just trying to make a motion then just to revisit this and come back to this and try to decide what we do with this $100,000. It's kind of hard because we don't even know what we're doing. I mean, me and him don't have a clue yet. We'll work it out.
Michael or Mayor, another question. I guess I'll address this to Michael. And it has to do with this maintenance of effort. And what I'm concerned is if we give Mr. Hennessy an increase, we have a whole new mayor come in and he hires somebody else that's not an attorney, that's not as qualified, that we decide we don't want to pay whatever Eric might have been making, could we reduce that pay?
So here's where bear with me as
And I'm assuming you're going to tell me, yes, you can reduce the pay, but it wouldn't reduce his overall budget.
That's essentially what I think. That's the way I read it. That's what I would believe. I think to change the mayor's chief of staff pay, whoever that is, whether it's this mayor and Eric, or whether it's a new mayor and a different chief of staff, that, so far as I know, is set by the resolution, by the commission. So I think to change that, you have to have a resolution, and I would agree with what you said is, I don't think you could reduce the budget, but I think you could change the resolution and reduce the pay of that one particular position, that's the way I understand it.
So basically anything on that list that you were mentioning, once we approve a budget level for that, we're going to have to maintain that in the future.
Now it does give, it says, and I'll read the last line of this, I'm not saying the mayor wants to do this, but it does say unless the mayor approves the reduction, meaning unless he comes to this body and says, I want to reduce my budget. That's the one caveat this law gives.
That's interesting.
So if I could ask, what's the, under this budget, what would the MOE be?
Under the one in front of you tonight? Like, are you looking for the one for next year or the one we're under right now?
Okay, so there's not, my understanding is there's not one this year, but for next year, so yes, that would be for next year.
Yeah, under this proposed budget. That's the one I want to hear anyway.
I'm doing this on the fly, and I'm doing this with a bunch of little lines, but it's right at $1,028,000. I'm sure I'm missing something small. I think I've gotten all the copier and printer lines. I mean, I'm within $1,000 or a couple thousand. I'd have to prepare that for you later to get you the exact number, but right at $1,028,000, $1,030,000.
So there'd be about 600, roughly 600,000 that would not be in the MOE calculation.
Mm-hmm. And those large items that would not be in it that I believe would be probably the legal services, the contracted services that we've spoke about, the 85 and then the 400, the other charges. So that's those lines, those three that I just gave you would make up approximately 560 that are not a part of it. I think you could probably include office supplies, even though it doesn't specifically list that, or it does. Yeah, so office supplies may be included. So, yeah, roughly 560 to 600 would not be included, but the majority coming from contracted services, legal services, and other charges. I think you could argue that legal notices should be included in that, since that would be a communication expense to communicate with the public.
Okay, any other discussion? Now I'm at the point, Sonia, you're recognized.
Just a thought. If you wanted, and we kind of toss this around a little bit, if you wanted on the resolution, you might could leave it at 66% in general, but add a caveat in there that if they are a licensed attorney, a CPA, some type of designation that would add that extra value to the mayor's office, then you wouldn't have to go back and change the resolution later.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about, we had that conversation about if, and we're thinking beyond this mayor's office. Let's say the next mayor comes in and they want to hire somebody. If they hire somebody with a professional designation, like an attorney or a PE, a professional engineer, or a CPA, depending on what that mayor thought he needed to more complete his abilities, if that makes sense, and there's a professional certification that goes with that. I think that is what Sonia's saying is the justification here. If the next mayor, whoever it is, decided they wanted to hire their next door neighbor, which there's nothing wrong with that, but doesn't have any particular professional expertise, then that might be a different equation that would need to be considered. I think that's what you're saying, right, Sonia?
Right. What I was saying is you could keep the base rate at the 66%, which is what you had in your original resolution, but add whatever percentage you guys decided, this body decided, would be added in there under a
Well, I assume that would have to go through steering to get that approved and those changes made. So that's not really something we can address tonight.
Right, but I was just saying that might be a way to handle it.
And I concur. Any changes to the mayor's budget? You're recognized, Jeff.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm getting maybe a little bit confused as it relates to where we stand right now with the chief of staff. It used to be called the deputy mayor, and then we changed it to chief of staff. Are there not guidelines that we put to that as to what that salary should be, Sonia?
Yes, the original resolution has 66% of the mayor's pay.
How much?
66% or it can be reduced at the mayor's request, I guess, depending on, whatever the mayor wanted it to be. Not so at this point, a way to address the increase in a way moving forward would be to, in my mind, to increase, change the resolution.
What?
The current resolution is 66%.
So that's where it stands. Those are our pay guidelines for that chief of staff position, correct? And this budget increases over that. So are we not going outside of our pay policies and procedures? I'm just...
Well, so this is going to require it. This is one of those we have a few unique things in the county. So what the mayor is asking tonight is, one, that you change his budget, you approve his budget recommendation that would include, I believe it was 80 is what you had in there. You would also have to take a second vote to change the resolution that was originally passed. Sonia may know, before I got here, whatever the original one that said it at 66, I don't know if you know when that was. You would have to take a second vote tonight to send another resolution to the full commission to change that, to put whatever change on it you wanted or a caveat. So tonight, even if you did nothing to the mayor's budget and accepted his recommendation, you would have to vote and change that resolution.
Well, personal opinion is, and any of y'all are subject to disagree, but I feel like that policy change needs to go back to steering and come through steering the way we normally do, especially where we're talking about a policy change. We could, I assume that we could do exactly what Michael's saying, but I don't think that's the correct way to do it.
I guess my question still stands. We've got a policy. This is what that job pays. In essence, it pays. And we're going outside of that policy right now, correct?
If we had adopted his request, we would be. That's my opinion.
Well, if you adopted his request and didn't change the resolution, he would just have extra money in his salary line item. We wouldn't spend it.
Say that one more time,
So
Michael.
if you adopted the mayor's request tonight and you did not want to change the resolution for the chief of staff position, he would just have extra budgeted money in his salary line item that he could not spend on his chief of staff.
Would that cover the maintenance of effort going forward?
It would increase the maintenance of effort going forward.
My concern about this whole process is that if we've got a policy, and I know government is different, I do that. Please believe me, I know it is after 30 some odd years, but my concern is that we've got a policy, that's what this job pays, and we're paying somebody extra for doing a good job, which we expect them to do anyway. It has nothing to do with Eric or anybody else, but if we've got a job listed and this is what that job pays, and we're trying to pay above that because they're doing a good job, doesn't make any sense. We expect that person to do a good job, period. So why are we paying extra? And the mayor gave a really good explanation about reviewing these and reviewing that, but is that part of his job anyway? Is it part of his job anyway? So I'm throwing that out there because I don't want to get into some kind of an unacceptable situation for any future county commission.
Well, I'll give you an example of what we're looking at in the past. This happened at the Sheriff's Department many years ago, so I'm not talking about anybody current, but there were basically promotions given, which means that there was an unbudgeted increase in that person's pay that the commission had not approved. And to me, this is kind of a similar situation if we do that. Now, of course, he's trying to address it on the front end, so it's not something we get surprised with, but I see your point.
Mr. Chairman?
If I could just follow up real quick, Wayne, and the guidelines are 66%, 66 and 2/3% or 2/3. What is it if this is approved? What is that percentage? 80%? So answer this question one more time. If we approve this and the next administration came in, whenever that is, we would be tied in to that 80%?
No.
Okay.
You would be tied in to the dollar amount for that salary line item. You could change the resolution of the pay for the chief of staff position if you wished, if this body wished by resolution. But the salary line item, who includes more than just Eric, is not the only person in that line item. That line item would have to stay the same.
Could this committee approve tonight the mayor's budget and then go back and adjust with the resolution over the next couple of months?
You could, yes.
And that would be legal? So the commission would be covered somewhere in the future?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Irvin, you're recognized.
Yeah, I just, there seems to be several moving pieces and one in front of the other and everything else. I'm trying to figure this out like the chairman is. What's the appropriate, is there a, I'd be glad to make a motion to move the mayor's budget until an appropriate time so that the appropriate committee could take a look at the policy, and then based on if any policy changes that are proposed and then made, we could adjust the budget in totality for the mayors, for that approach. I'm just trying to kind of think this through. If we approve the budget now, we have the problem Michael's alluding to, and we have to do another motion that we're not certain how that loops, potentially loops back. And so I'm trying to figure out a way, can we postpone this, get the appropriate policy decision made, then go, at an appropriate budget meeting and make a decision on the mayor's budget?
We can change any of the decisions. For instance, we've made several decisions tonight. Any of those can be changed between now and up until, the 23rd of June.
You can change anything up until the morning of the 23rd. If you make anything too big on the 23rd, you'll have to recess for us to rewrite the appropriations resolution. But ultimately, this body and the full commission has up until June 23rd at 9 a.m., I believe.
So
steering does meet before.
Please don't wait till then. That is a dire request from my office. Please don't wait to change everything until the morning of the 23rd.
So
I may have a stroke.
so recognizing that, I'll make a motion to move this consideration of the mayor's budget if it's needed. If it's not needed, if we can just decide to do it, I'm okay with that too.
I don't understand. You're going to have to be clear on that motion. If you're talking about the salary increase for the chief of staff, is that what you're alluding to?
Salary increase for the chief of staff, the entire mayor's budget, I'm not sure it really makes a difference, candidly.
Well,
does it make a difference? So it doesn't make a difference.
No,
Okay.
I will say if you're asking my opinion or
Sure.
is that they should stay together. I think it's less confusing for everybody if they stay together, meaning if you want to approve the mayor's recommendation tonight, I think there ought to go ahead and be a discussion or a vote on the change of salary. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting money there just that we can't use. I would keep them together
So if we keep them together, we either agree or there's a motion to move it to after an appropriate consideration of the policy.
Well, if there's we won't need a change or a motion if there is no change. If I don't hear a motion and a motion passes to make a change to his budget, we've been taking the mayor's recommendation. So unless there's a change, it will go through just as it's stated in front of you right now. So if you want to change in it, you're going to need to make a motion to make a change in that tonight.
Okay, with it noted that we can bring up any item in the mayor's budget at any time, I think we should just simply move forward and then note for the record that after the policy considerations have been vetted, we may want to revisit the mayor's budget, and in particular, the chief of staff role.
Okay, so basically there is no motion. Do I hear a motion to change the mayor's recommendation? If not, we will accept the mayor's recommendation as stated in front of us now. Do I hear a change or a motion? Hearing none, we are accepting the mayor's recommendation. It can be revisited, as you stated, Commissioner Irving. All right, next.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just kind of ask a couple of other questions. We talked about, since it's been adopted, hiring a new person for the mayor. A lot of the work that's done in the mayor's office is for the county commission. And I'm not 100% sure that if the mayor should have full authority to hire that person without some advice or some input from the county commission. The budget committee is probably not the right place to do this, but I would suspect that since some of those people report to the county commission on a regular basis and do a lot of work, I think the county commission should have some type of input as to who goes in and hires that situation. I also think they should have some input as it relates to discipline and termination and that kind of thing.
I appreciate that comment, and I meant to say something when Mayor Carr was talking about the third secretary position. I'll call it that for now. He said would report directly to him. My understanding is those three people that we had in the past, all through, yes, they reported to the mayor, but they also are accountable to the county commission. So that person would, yes, be under the mayor's direction, but also work for the county commission, just as the other two ladies do. So I just want to clarify that, but I understand where you're coming from. But again, I don't think that's something we need to discuss. I think that's something you need to take to Chairman Harris.
And the statute's real clear in this regard, Chairman, that the mayor's office is to provide the appropriate personnel to support the county commission's work. The statute says that. So that's in law.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Chairman Harris.
I'm confused here. So steering committee voted to redo the contract of the lobbyists, right? So we're going to have that contract done by the steering committee meeting coming up. So Michael, do I have time if we decide to put the $100,000 into the county commission instead of the mayor's budget? Do I have time until the steering committee?
Yes, I believe steering meets on June 2nd. That's a Monday, I think. Does that sound right? The budget committee meets again on June 5th. It meets again on June 10th. It's also going to meet again on the 17th. So you could adjust it at any one of those times.
Okay. And then as far as Phillips goes, Mr. Phillips, if you want anything that you want discussed in steering, I have absolutely no problem giving you anything you need. So that'll help on what we're talking about, if he wants to bring that up or any other commission, as far as the pay of the chief of staff. But I just want to let the commission know, this budget committee, that we're redoing this contract. And I feel like we need to have it in the county commission budget, but if we had to put that into a resolution form, then we can do that. So we'll address that. I just want to make sure I got time until the steering committee to do something like that, or leave it in the mayor's budget, whatever comes up.
So I told you wrong. We do not meet on June 10th. We meet on June 5th, 17th, and June 18th. I just want to clarify that for my watching, so please don't show up here on the 10th. So June 5th is our regularly scheduled budget meeting. You could change it then. June 17th and June 18th. And then, of course, on the morning of the 23rd.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and that would also allow time to make any policy change, is that right? Because right now we're sitting on a acceptance of the mayor's budget for an increased amount with no policy level motion. So there's an adjustment.
There will need, if you would like to change that pay, there will need to be a revised resolution or a motion made to do that.
That needs to go through the appropriate folks as well.
Yeah, Michael, if we left it in the mayor's budget, just like it is, and the resolution calls for a contract as to reporting responsibility, it could be covered no matter which budget it's under. So I don't know if it really makes a big difference one way or the other. If it's in the mayor's budget, he couldn't expend it without county commission approval if that resolution states that.
All right.
Yes.
All right, guys, I'm fixing to move us on a little bit. We have accepted the mayor's budget. There may be something come back from that after we have steering review some of our policies. I would skip back up to Solid Waste and Sanitation Fund, but since he made us wait, I'm going to make him wait and take a 10-minute break. And our next item of business will be the Solid Waste and Sanitation Fund, which is under tab 5. Welcome, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Bishop Wagner, Solid Waste Director. I would like to, I've reviewed the mayor's proposed budget, and I would like to, I agree with the mayor's proposed budget.
If I could ask a question, if it's not too early for me, could you explain the differences in what you're proposing versus what's in effect right now, the difference in the two budgets?
The primary difference in the two budgets is a line item of $4 million in landfill operations and some change, 4.2 million, I believe. I don't have my sheet in front of me. And I believe that is for the operation of it's the funding that's needed for paying for the waste disposal through the contract.
Which line item is it?
It is in 55754, 312. It's $4,650,000.
So the cost of opening up the new transfer station is the difference in the budget and the only difference in the budget for
primarily. There are some items that have shifted around. There's some things we eliminated. There's some things that we've added, but by and large, it is really close to what we had last year.
Okay, and the cost of running the transfer station doesn't include any receipts that the county may have. So, is that correct or incorrect? I'm just trying to get a feel for if we create any revenue coming in, this isn't accounting for that.
No, it does have approximately $4.6 million in revenue budgeted on the revenue page. If you're looking on the first page there, it's going to be in line 43,110. Last year, the tipping fees were $90,000, and that's typically what they get in when that comes across their scale now. And then the mayor's proposal has 4.7 million. That increases that line by about 4.6, the same offsetting on the expense side.
So the total new cost for us building and operating a transfer station is $500,000. Is that what you're saying?
That's what we're budgeting to be able to pay for the disposal when we need it. Of course, we will be taking revenues in, so the overall cost won't be realized until the end of the fiscal year.
I know there's a break-in period, but this time next year, we hope to be looking at something different as it relates to revenue versus expenditures, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I know that the operating cost will probably be higher this year simply because we have to get used to it. And I understand all that, but I'm just wanting to make sure that our plan for the future, the cost hopefully will go down and not continue to go up. So that's my point, whatever that point is worth. So
If I could add, we might see initially, as I think as you referenced it several months ago, that burn-in period or whatever, we anticipate not to last more than 90 days based on the commitments that we have already received, the county has already received from two large contractors for MSW that are currently taking that MSW to Nashville. They're now going to redirect those routes to our transfer station, and those two contractors comprise about 100 to 110,000 tons a year. So all this has to come to fruition, but we do not, it's our anticipation, Mr. Chairman, that this will not be in the deficit by the time we get to this point next year.
that was my question. Thank you.
Do you have any money in this for upkeep of the convenience centers or adding anything to the existing?
There is budgeted money for site development and $75,000 under the 55732 line item. That's for some of the convenience center updates that could potentially happen. We also are waiting to hear back on the status of that grant that we applied for the Haley Road Convenience Center, or excuse me, Haley Road Recycling Center. And we should hear back by the end of June on whether or not we were accepted for that grant or not. And if we would, that's a zero match grant, I believe, in the amount of $1.6 million.
That's one we'd have to look at.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just make sure I'm reading this correctly. So the total revenue is roughly $12.692 million, which looks like the same as total expenditures. They equal 12.692. How'd y'all do that?
I'm looking at 12.692 as the department request and the mayor's recommended.
Well, that's the both the revenue and the total expenses. So in other words, on total for revenue, department request and the mayor's recommendation is $12.692 million. And then the expenditure is the same amount. So it's just a break even.
Michael?
I'm just kind of want to confirm that. That's what I'm understanding.
Not seeing that on this sheet. That's not the way I see it.
If you're asking whether the mayor's proposal has revenue and expenses equaling, then you are correct.
Wagner, how much money do we spend on the landfill each year? Numbers inflated because you got the transfer station in there. So, is it 1 million or figure out what it is, because you got this 4 million number in here.
It's approximately $1 million. Last year we had $808,000 that was added to the landfill for the purchase of dirt for the closure activities on the Class 3. I'm not looking at last year's budget.
No, I'm just asking,
document, so.
based on this, you got 5.6, so you run about $1 million. 5.6, and then you got 4.6.
any more questions for the director on any of the items. A pretty large budget, if you want to take a few more minutes to look at it.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing, Bishop, I have a question about, and it's more asking for a commitment to perhaps come back to, because no one really knows how the transfer station's going to work out. I mean, I hear the great projections. I see the projections, as Commissioner Gooch pointed out, everything is balanced, and perfectly. But I'm trying to figure out how's it really going to work out, and I don't think anybody knows. And so what I'm going to ask is once a quarter, so that we're not surprised at the end of the year, that you come in and just give us a quick analysis in terms of the budget, in terms of revenue, and that could even tie into, I'll just mention, the fees that are being charged that, I think no one really knows if that's quite going to work or not, and there's some mechanism, they could be adjusted, as I understand it. So I'm just asking that, since we don't really know what the revenues are going to look like, and we really don't seem to know what the expenditures are going to look like, could you commit to come back to this committee about every quarter or so, and so we could talk through what does it look like? Do the numbers need to be adjusted, somehow?
Mr. Commissioner, I'd like to answer that question because this is something we've talked about. Bishop and Eric and Michael and I have talked about, we will be reporting to Public Works, and if the chairman so desires, we can report to this committee every month on the previous business activity at the transfer station. I would take exception to the idea we don't know. We know as much about the revenue and the expense side as any other business that's starting up that has done as much due diligence as they possibly can to accurately predict what those activities are going to look like. And so we have spent literally 2.5 years putting this together. Am I absolutely 100% certain? No. But I'm not 100% certain on anything. But I do believe that the commitments that we have received are genuine based on the information they have provided to me. And so from that, I believe this is going to be successful. But to your question, if the chairman wants the mayor or bishop to report on a monthly basis, we are glad to do that because it's our intent to report that to Public Works on a monthly basis anyway.
That would be great. I mean, it's up to monthly, quarterly, whatever. I'm just trying to get a sense for kind of what the numbers look like. I've worked with an awful lot of startups and who've done, extensive analysis and said, oh, yes, this is exactly how it's going to turn out.
And I've done a few startups, so I get it. So we're both on the same page.
Right. But sometimes it does, and sometimes it's a little off. I'll put it that way.
I mean, if that's the committee's recommendation, I don't mind doing that, but Public Works will see that. I think when we got the chairman of Public Works sitting back there, he could, at our full commission meetings, put those numbers to us there. But like I said, it's up to this committee. If y'all decide you want to do it, I certainly would welcome a chance to let them participate. Any other questions on the solid waste budgets? Hearing no discussion, I'm going to take the mayor's recommendation and add that to our approved column. Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you.
And that gets us down to the important one. We want to make sure Teresa gets paid well. So we're going to do the finance department's budget at this time. Michael?
The two largest increases we have is one is the audit services cost. We actually pay the comptroller's office every year. That's set by statute that we have to pay them every year. The other larger increase we have is postage charges. And so we're increasing employees. This year we mailed 9,900 and something W-2s. So that cost went up. We're actually over budget. We'll be amending that at the end of the year. But that's the two largest increase we have. We don't have much of a choice on those two line items there. Although Teresa would love if y'all would tell us not to mail W-2s, we will gladly not do that at y'all's direction.
I don't think you're going to hear that direction.
We did not put Lunchables in the budget, Commissioner Gooch.
Michael, are you adding anybody? And I haven't looked back.
Nope, no new positions.
I know we had moved some personnel from what, schools?
We do have, currently, we have moved, they're still budgeted in the school's budget for now.
Okay,
but they are up here. They're in the payroll office right over there. But we have moved several individuals up here, but they're currently still budgeted in the schools.
Okay, that's where I was headed with that question. Thank you.
I think as they transition probably off the state insurance, we would probably start to transition them budget-wise, but a couple of those individuals are really like their insurance or their spouses are on it, and so it was just less disruption for them.
I got you. All right. Had a chance to look at it. The budget. Any questions for Michael? Chairman, you're recognized.
Yeah, let me just ask a question, and it's I don't know, a little embarrassing maybe to ask salary questions in relation to individuals. We've given, or we've just gave preliminary approval to the mayor's for a pretty hefty increase for his assistant for doing an exceptional job and creating some additional accomplishments for the mayor's office. The director of finance, can you give me a breakdown as to where the director of finance is in relation to the recommendation of the state? I'm trying my best, Michael, to get a feel for where your budget stands compared to what the recommendation of the state is, and how all that fits into this budget.
I'm not sure what you mean by the recommendation of the state.
What kind of an increase does the director of finance have on this budget right here?
There's a one pay grade change from a 63 to 64. I think that's right. And so that's what's in the budget.
Is how much? What's the percentage?
There's a one pay grade change. So there's a step increase, and the one pay grade change would be 3%. And then I would be eligible for the 2% lift to the table.
The step increase is how much again?
Step increase is 1.75. I believe I did get the eligible for step increase. The grade change is one grade change. That's approximately 3%. It's not exactly 3, but it's roughly 3. And then there's an across-the-board raise of 2%.
So 6.75?
Roughly.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because I don't know how much money Michael has saved us over the last 2 or 3 years. I just don't know. But it's incalculable in my mind. And if the mayor's executive assistant is worth 13 or 14%, what's this guy worth? And I don't have a say-so. I can't make a recommendation, but I think we ought to take a look at that. I really do.
Once a year, this committee does an assessment on our finance director. And I think you can, we gave you, I guess, 1 year. Sonia can bring back the results of that if y'all don't remember them, but they were pretty positive as a rule. So, you know, as Chairman Phillips points out, you know, some of our employees are definitely, and as the mayor points out, some of our employees maybe go above and beyond. But it's certainly something this committee can look at. So having said that, and you're looking at the budget in front of you tonight, any changes anyone would like to make or any questions you might have at this time?
A quick follow-up question. Sonia, is there a salary range for that level? Is there a salary range for that level, and where does that fit into that salary range?
Yeah, use your mic, please.
I was trying to get my, oh, hold on.
Sonia, let me short circuit you a little bit, but maybe at our next meeting you might have time to do a little research on what some of the finance directors in surrounding areas are being paid. I don't know, can you do that?
Yes, sir, I could do that for you. We've got it in general, but I mean, if you're wanting me, you need to give me some direction when you say surrounding us. Are you talking about surrounding counties, the state?
Well, I'm going to say the larger counties anyway.
Okay. Would we want to compare them like to local, anybody like, I don't know. You just tell me who you're wanting and that's who I'll look at.
I'll tell you what, let me get with you after this. I'll ask Chairman Phillips to have some input. I will say this, when we went through the hiring process, which to me was difficult, but Michael stood out above all of them that I worked with. I think, well, I know Vice Chairman Gooch was in on that search and several more of you, but one thing that we did find out is the original price range that we were throwing out there, we were told is, hey, you guys are way out of range. You know, Ms. Nolan, if you're going back and look at it, was probably grossly underpaid. At any rate, Sonia, I'll get with you on some places to look, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
I guess the reason I'm bringing this up, you guys, is because the Finance Department reports to the County Commission, and I think we as a County Commission ought to have some input into that. And I know the mayor does, and that's always been the case, and I'm thankful for that, that he put so much time and effort into this. But this is a position that reports to us, the County Commission. And I think we ought to have some input into that as well.
And I agree.
Okay.
When we do the yearly assessment, that same survey is sent to all 21 commissioners, besides the Budget Committee. And then Budget Committee's survey results are forwarded as well as the full commission when we report those. Is that correct, Sonia? Any of you are interested in seeing that? I'm sure Sonia's still got that on file somewhere. Now, let's get back to this budget tonight. Yes, you can do an increase anywhere you want to or decrease, but you've got this budget in front of you. Do I hear a motion to change the mayor's recommendation on the budget, Finance Department's budget? Hearing none at this time, we're going to accept the mayor's recommendation, and that brings us to the end. Since we've already taken care of the other business, and I'll recognize you in a second, Mayor, the reappraisal budget, we've already done that, so we will not go have other business. other than I want to mention our next meeting is on the 19th at 5:30. Mayor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's possible, with your consent, if Michael could give it, so we have several of these, and as the commission, the budget decides to make changes, plus or minus, if Michael could, at the end of each one of these work sessions, give us what the cumulative impact to the budget is, as we can keep that number going. In my mind, that would be helpful. I think Michael says we added a little over $300,000 tonight.
$309,000, I believe.
So if we could, if it's all right, Mr. Chairman, if we could have Michael give us that number at the end of every one of these budget meetings, at least we could be able to keep up with the changes. Thank you.
Sonia, you're recognized.
And when you guys are thinking about who to compare him to, we need to make sure we take into consideration that a lot of those other entities aren't responsible for like the school's payroll and some of those other responsibilities that he has. So even though I'm doing an analysis, if they're not doing the same duties, you need to take that into consideration.
Apples to apples,
The cumulative change tonight, I'm going to give you a total at the end, but I'm going to recap them individually, and then I'll give you the total. So to start tonight, on the reappraisal budget, we added in total $106,000. That was $126,000 to line 312. And no, I'm sorry. The new total was 126 for line 312, and the new total was for 308 was 100,000. So that was a total change of 106,000 for the reappraisal budget. We added 200,000 to the county buildings maintenance budget. That was to line 607. And we added $675 to risk management's budget for longevity. That's a total of $306,675 is what I have. $306,675. 306,675.
Thank you, Michael.
Can I make one announcement?
Sure.
So in your budget books tonight, I handed you out a new summary that's going to be under tab 1. It should be the first page under tab 1. You'll notice that your revenue or surplus or deficit went up by almost $1 million. I added in the opioid, the things that were approved, a little over $900 and something thousand for the opioid committee is that increase there. And so that's why it's now almost $2.5 million change. However, just as a reminder, we get that opioid money this year and we'll spend it, most of it next year. So while it seems like a lot larger number, that's spent over the course of next year, and that's to several organizations. Once we get to the nonprofits and that section of the budget, we'll talk about those in detail. But I just wanted to go ahead and get you that so that you would have that in your budget books.
Right. There being no other business before us, we're adjourned.